Medicine has failed people with obesity forever. So it's time medicine picked up. If I was fighting with diabetes, they'd be all over me with solutions and options. If I was fighting cancer, it would be the same thing. Well, I'm here to say that I 100% believe that obesity is a chronic, multifactorial disease, and we got to fight it.
Welcome back to the Obesity Stories Show. I'm your host, Dr. Dan. The purpose of these interviews is to share the stories of everyday people that are struggling and learning to manage their obesity. We talk about their successes, their failures, and all of the struggles that they experience in order to bring awareness to the fact that obesity is a chronic disease, and not just a matter of eating less and moving more. I also hope that we can foster a sense of community so that you, my wonderful followers, know that you are not alone along this journey. Today, my guest is Cindy. Cindy's story really embodies everything that we are trying to do with these interviews and through these stories. And her obesity journey began when she was just 5 years old. She remembers at that time that she had to be taken to the doctor and was told to start on a diet. And this really was the beginning of her childhood, where she would be continually criticized about her weight and being told she does not meet the expectation or fit into the mold of what little girls should look like. The messaging that she heard constantly was that she is not good enough. And while this messaging maybe did have a positive effect in that she went on to have a very successful career and really kind of had a chip on her shoulder, if you will, to show the world that she is capable and that she can do it, it still had the long-lasting and negative effects when it came to how she felt about herself and how she felt about her weight. Now, at the age of 67 years old, Cindy has found some relief, she has found some success, and she is working towards living her bestest life. One of her greatest breakthroughs was understanding the concept of internalized weight bias, and that it's not her fault she has a weight issue. Yes, it is her responsibility to manage it, but ultimately she is not inherently bad because she has a weight problem. She has come to learn and understand that obesity is indeed a chronic disease that is multifactorial and is not just as simple as eating less and moving more. I loved talking to Cindy about her story because internalized weight bias is one of the primary barriers that I see so many people every single day struggling with. And Cindy's story really highlights the power that internalized bias can have over the course of your life and how it can hold you back from ultimately reaching your goals. But as Cindy highlights, you can break free from internalized weight bias and reach true freedom from your weight. And if you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button down below so that you don't miss out when I put out another video. There's been a ton of positive feedback with these videos, so I'm very excited to keep them going, and your ongoing support is greatly appreciated. And if you want to share your story on the show, fill out the link in the description down below, and we'll ask you a couple of questions, and my team will reach out to you about getting you on the show with me. So, without further ado, let's talk to Cindy. Welcome back to the Obesity Stories, everybody. I am joined by Cindy. Cindy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I am doing very, very well. Thank you very much for coming onto the show and agreeing to share a bit of your story. I'm excited to dive into it, and I certainly know a little bit of your story, but I would love to we start at the beginning and tell us about your weight history.
Okay, I'm the oldest of 4 children. My mother had just turned 18 when she had me, and my parents lived about 100 yards from my paternal grandparents. Okay. I was about 5 years old when I realized that I wasn't everything that my grandmother wanted me to be. I was a chunk. I wasn't fat, and when I look back at the pictures now, I wasn't fat, but I was not lean. And my younger sister, 16 months younger, was skinny. They called her turkey legs. I mean, it was skinny mini. She was really thin. And I was really a very happy, solid chunk of child. And when I was 5, my grandmother told my mother, who was, what was she, 23 then, told her that she should take me to the doctor and get me on a diet. My mother did that. She took me in. And she asked the doctor, if I should be on a diet. And the doctor said, no, she's healthy, but maybe she shouldn't have a chocolate bar every day. And my mom said, okay. And so came home and told grandma that the doctor said I was fine. But that didn't satisfy grandma because her idea was long and lean and skinny. Like she was. She wasn't tall, but she was probably a size 1 or a size 2 all her life. Little Irish lady. She had an extreme weight bias. It was awful. Anyway, so I started to know then that I wasn't what I was expected to be. I didn't fit the plan. And, my mother has since apologized to me because she said that she knew she shouldn't have fallen for that. But she said I was so young and she was my mother-in-law. And I thought, so she did it. But anyway, so then it became, felt like my mom and my grandma watched what I ate. So I was very careful to not eat very much in front of them. And I started sneaking food, and I would be rummaging in the fridge at night, and I would be thinking of where I could find something to eat. I got to say, too, my dad inherited that weight bias from my grandma. And although he didn't monitor my food intake, I knew when he thought something didn't look good on me, he would say something like, well, that doesn't fit you right. Or, I think you need something different. Dorothy, get her something different to wear. Right. So, yeah, my sister could wear these cute little dresses, and I would wear the A-line kind of dresses. One fall, my mom got frustrated trying to find pants that would fit me. I might have been 10 then. So she eventually took me to a seamstress and had the seamstress make my pants. And I heard about that for months, how my sister could get pants out of the Sears catalog and they fit, but I had to take Cindy somewhere to get pants made for her. I still wasn't fat. Yeah. But that wore on me. And probably around about the time that I hit puberty, I did start to gain weight. I remember, I was 14 or 15. I was 5'5". I weighed 160 pounds, and I was mortified, just mortified. My grandma took me aside one day, and she said she would pay me to lose weight. She would give me so much money. I can't remember what it was now. It's a long time ago. She would give me so much money for the first 10 pounds and then so much money per pound after that. And I could buy new clothes. And, that sounded pretty good to I think I was 14 or 15. Right. And so I went on a really strict diet. I did like a Weight Watchers / fasting thing. And I ran 2.5 miles every day. And yeah, I lost 30 pounds in 3 or 4 months. I got down to 132, and I thought, whoa, the world is mine. But it wasn't, because I still had to wear jeans that were a size 30 waist. Yeah. And all of my friends were still in the 20s, a 26-inch waist jeans or a 28-inch waist jeans. And there I was still in the 30s. I didn't like that. And then at one point, my aunt approached me, and she said that she'd been talking to my mom. My aunt's only 11 years older than me, so we kind of grew up together. Not really, but there's not much difference in us now, that's for sure. Yeah. But she approached me and she said, your mom's really worried about your weight. She really wants you to get a little slimmer. And so I'm here to talk to you about that. And I was mortified. I wanted to bawl. And I just said, yeah, I know, I'm so fat. I can't seem to lose any weight, blah, blah. Anyway, I graduated. I probably weighed 130 pounds. I was 16 years old when I graduated from high school. And I went to university the first year. And I started to put on some weight because apparently 130 wasn't realistic for my body. I am really strong. Like I physically, I'm a very, very strong person, and I was a sprinter in school. I set a record for the 100-yard dash in our school, and I set a record for shot put. So it's kind of like those short, heavy, stocky girls can do things like that. It wasn't high jump, it wasn't pole vault, but it was shot put and 100-yard dash. Right. And then I went to university, and it's not the freshman 15. I don't know if I believe in that, but I did start to gain some weight. And I went to university for a year and a half, and then I dropped out and I went to trade school and got a hairdressing certificate. And then I moved into a small town and I got engaged to be married, and I was back to 160 pounds, which now when I think about it, at 5'5", that's not horrible. But I felt so terrible about it that I went on a starvation diet. I had like 3 months before the wedding, and I lost 18 pounds on the starvation diet, and, wore a nice wedding dress, a nice small size wedding dress. And then about 6 or 8 months after the wedding, I got pregnant with our first child. And I put on some weight, and it wasn't an atrocious amount. It was within the doctor's guidelines, but it didn't all come off after I had her. And then I was pregnant again and had another baby within 12 months. And I put some weight on with that one too, and it didn't come off either. And then it just went on like that. I had 5 children in 6 years. And so each pregnancy. So at that point, after the 5th child, I weighed about 230 pounds. I was trying everything. I was smoking a lot of cigarettes and drinking a lot of coffee, thinking that would make me thin. I was running again. I was trying to run a mile in the morning. I was actually working on our dairy farm. I was carrying pails of milk and throwing bales and pushing cows and doing everything. And I never lost an ounce that way. So then I started the whole series of, okay, I'm going to join Weight Watchers. Okay, that didn't work. I'm going to join Tops. That didn't work. I'm going to do that cabbage soup diet because everybody says, yeah, that didn't work either. I'm going to chew those little square things called AIDS, AYDS. They're an appetite suppressant. No, they're not. But apparently for some people they were because they kept selling them. I tried everything. I tried just plain starvation, Lipton's chicken noodle soup 3 times a day, just to get off a few pounds. And yeah, I would get off a few, and then it would come right back again.
Right.
And there's nothing I could do. And extra would come back sometimes too. And so I spent most of my adult life at around, after I had my last child when I was 28.
Okay.
And like I said, I weighed about 230 pounds. And I just went up 10, went down 10, went up 15, went down 20, went up 25. I kept going. In the meantime, I got divorced. I moved to California. And if you think there's weight bias in Alberta, you should try California. Yeah, this is the place where everybody is totally toned and fit and plastic surgery and everything.
Yeah.
And so I really didn't fit in at all. I quit the cigarettes because it eventually dawned on me they weren't doing me any good. I quit the cigarettes and I gained another 10 pounds. And then I joined Weight Watchers there too. I joined Tops there. I joined a gym and I went every morning faithfully before work. But finally I didn't know what to do. And then I started hearing about this gastric bypass surgery.
Right.
And I thought, I'm going to check it out. So I went to Stanford and listened to the head of the Stanford team. He did a seminar on it, and I went and I listened, and I thought, yeah, this sounds like it might work for me. Unfortunately, my insurance is different in the States, and my insurance didn't cover his particular specialty. In order for me to get covered, I had to go to Monterey, which is like half an hour down the coast, no big deal. And I got really lucky because the head bariatric surgeon at Monterey was also the guy that had trained the one at Stanford.
Okay.
And he decided he wanted a slower life for his family and kids, so he moved down the coast to Monterey. So he did all the prep with me. But again, it was an insurance thing. I couldn't actually get the surgery in his hospital. So he sent me to Sacramento. And the surgeon I met with at Sacramento was actually the president of the American Bariatric Surgeons Association. So he knew his stuff. Yeah. He did the surgery, and I thought, I did everything that he asked me to do. I lost 10 pounds before the surgery. I did this, I did that. And just to let you know, I weighed in for the surgery at 279 pounds. Okay. That's a lot on 5'5". Anyway, so I went in, I had the surgery. Less than 24 hours later, I said, I'm ready to go home. He said,
Mhm.
well, you can stay. And I said, no, I feel fine. So I went home. I took 5 days off work because he wouldn't sign the papers to let me go back sooner. I wanted to go back. I was ready.
Yeah.
And the weight just started coming off. And I wasn't hungry. I wasn't, it was a different kind of feeling. Like I wasn't hungry. And if I ate too much, I felt really, really sick. So I actually had little containers that held half a cup. And that's what I would eat for lunch, was this little half a cup. And that was really good. And I lost, I'm going to say about 60 pounds in 6 months.
Wow. Okay.
Then it stopped, completely stopped. And it didn't matter what I did. I could not seem to budge the scale any farther. And that's frustrating. And when I went back to the surgeon, he said, oh, no, he said, you're just so healthy. You're so robust. This is good for you. And I'm like, I'm still over 200 pounds, buddy. And I don't want to be there. And I don't feel like this. And I had developed nocidioblastosis at that time, which is a reactive hypoglycemia.
Mhm.
And I ended up, I carry glucose everywhere I go because I still get some sometimes.
Yeah.
Anyway, I started dieting again. Before the year was up, I was already on another diet. And then I started doing MediFast, which is, you had to buy it. I bought it at my gym. The gal at the gym was a MediFast advisor. And I lost another 20 pounds and I got down below the 200 for the first time in at least 20 years.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got down below the 200 and then we moved back to Canada because these wonderful children of mine started having grandbabies. They'd all got married in the 10 years I was in California, and now they're having children of their own. And I wanted to be a present grandma.
Yeah.
So we moved back. I had remarried by this time, and he had no grandchildren, nor was he going to have any. And so we moved back to Calgary, and I started to gain. I wasn't doing MediFast anymore.
Mhm.
So then I joined, I forget the name now, but it's the one that focuses on high protein, and you go for a weekly weigh-in. And they have all these products you have to buy in order to stay on. They have shakes and they have dehydrated meals. And I did that, and I lost 20 pounds and got sick of that. It wasn't really effective and quit. And then I started doing the Weight Watchers and the other things. And I really mentally gave up. I've been fighting this. I'm 67 years old. I've been fighting this since I was 5. That's a long time to fight it and to know you're not as good as. I remember saying this to my sister-in-law one time, not so long ago, like a year ago or so, when we were talking about the weight. And I said, that you're not as good as the rest of the family. You're not good enough. And she said, oh, nobody ever said that to you. And I said, not in those words.
Yeah.
But the message came across really clear. And I think I've been a really high achiever in my career, my professional life. And I think that part of what drove me to be such a high achiever, such an A kind of person, is that I had to prove that even though I was fat, I wasn't lazy and I wasn't stupid. And you have to work harder when you're fat. Just like they talk about how ugly women have to work harder to get somewhere in the workplace. Fat women have to work really hard to get somewhere because people just don't see you as being as worthwhile. So there I was here in Canada. I've been here 12 years now. And I was doing my usual, what I'd been doing for most of my life. I tried this diet, I'd lose a few pounds, I'd gain a few. I'd try that diet, I'd lose a few pounds, I'd gain a few. And it took 10 years. But when I moved to Canada, I weighed 195 pounds. And a year and a half ago, I weighed, I think, 242.
Okay.
And so I had put back most of the weight I lost with the Roux-en-Y. I went to see the surgeon here in town. I brought my carefully graphed weight chart and showed him how I had lost, and then I plateaued, and then I started to go up. And the only thing he noticed on it was I had lost 20 pounds a year after the Roux-en-Y. He said, what did you do here? I said, Medifat. Oh, okay. He said, well, there's nothing surgically that I can do for you. You're healthy. You're fine. Just okay. I tried to get into a support group for people with Roux-en-Y, but because I didn't have my Roux-en-Y surgery here in Alberta, I was denied admittance into any of their support groups. I got so far as from the surgeon, I got a referral to the bariatric surgery clinic down in the old children's hospital, whatever. I don't know where it is, Richmond Road or something like that.
Right. Oh, yeah. Richmond.
Roadchild. Yeah. Anyway, I got a referral there. And what I was asking for was to be included, so that I would keep up to date on, what blood tests are we supposed to get annually now? Because that changes. What supplements am I supposed to be taking? And basically, the person I saw read my referral, and said to me, well, there's nothing here for you. And I burst into tears. And I was bawling in the doctor's office, and I'm feel like an idiot. And she said, well, there's nothing I can do. And I said, you guys are my last hope. I don't know what else to do. And so she went out of the room. She came back in, and she had somebody write down the names of 3 different counselors that worked with people with obesity issues. And that was it. That was my goodbye. It was nothing. I never been so... I felt like I'd been run over by a Mack truck. I'd finally got this appointment. I was going to get in. I was going to get support, and I got nothing. And so I went back to the exercise, the diet, the exercise, the diet. And, it just doesn't work for me. Anyway, I moved to British Columbia. I kept my same endocrinologist because I have, she's the one that diagnosed the nocidioblastosis properly. But I also have Graves' syndrome. So I have a hyperactive thyroid, and I control it with medication. But she said to me on one of our visits, do you want to try this Ozempic? And I said, well, do you think it's worth it? She said, well, you could try it. And I said, okay. So I left her office that day with the starter pack of Ozempic. They showed me how to inject, and that was a no-brainer. That was easy. I went home, but I was only on 0.25, and then I got up to 0.5. And I lost a bit of weight, but then I kind of plateaued, and I didn't have anybody to counsel me. And she's lovely, but she's in Calgary. I'm in British Columbia.
Right.
So finally, I kept taking it because I thought, well, at least it's keeping me from gaining.
Right.
And then I don't know where I saw your information somewhere on social media, Dr. Dan. And
probably was TikTok. Yeah.
Yeah, it could have been. But I've always got my eyes on obesity issues. So I saw your information, and I thought, well, it won't hurt. It won't hurt. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. And I wasn't done the fight yet, I guess. So I phoned, and I made an appointment, and I came in to see you. And there was 2 extremely helpful things right off the bat. Number one, you explained internalized weight bias to me. That was huge. That was me 100%. I hated myself on the down low. I didn't let on. I did because, I'm professional, and I'm successful, and I'm bright. I'm all those things. But I hated myself. And the second thing is, you said, we got to play with this dosage. And that was the key. That was really the key. The first thing is the internalized weight bias was liberating. All of a sudden I thought, this is not just me. I'm not lazy. I'm not stupid. I'm not a pig. I don't just sit there and eat. Yeah. And yet I had been made to feel like that, by family and by society. Even if family didn't say it out loud, society sometimes did.
Yeah.
So that was extremely liberating. It's like, hey, I don't have to take all of the responsibility for this on me. That's really freeing. You have no idea unless you've been under that weight. And the second thing was that, oh my God, at 1.5, the weight just slid off. I remember saying to you at one point that, I don't know if I said it to you or my GP, but I remember thinking, I must have cancer or something. This weight is coming off way too easy. I'm not hungry, and I don't really care about food. there must be something wrong with me. But I went for my, blood panels and all that kind of stuff, and I was perfectly healthy. My doctor said my lab results were picturesque, which is a wonderful word to use. But anyway, yeah. So I got the weight off. I lost, well, I don't know. I went down to 172 from probably about 240. So I lost a lot of weight with Ozempic, and I kept it off quite effortlessly from November until July of this year, when I started getting some medication changes for my anxiety. So yeah, that's kind of the backstory on the story of my obesity. Yeah.
Well, and it's very fascinating, and I always hear stories like every single day of this aspect where a family member has maybe the right intentions, and certainly that weight bias, that it's you need to look a certain way, be a certain way, and that sort, and they have the intention of helping you and supporting you, but then they do the exact opposite because you're going to rebel or find the ways to get the food because you're told, well, I can't have this. And any time that we're told we shouldn't do something or told we should do something, well, humans aren't meant to be slaves. We're going to fight back against it, and we're going to do the opposite of what's being told to us. And it's going to drive that constant behavior. And like you said, you constantly got that message of, I am not good enough. I don't fit this picturesque, perfect mold. My sister over here, she's the one that's getting that, the praise and that sort of thing. And you need to be more like her and do X, Y, and Z. And you just need to do it. You just need to eat less and move more. And like you said, it's not that you were lazy. It's not that you did not try and do quite literally everything you could in your power, but the weight still was an ongoing problem and issue until you got the right tools and support to help you to start changing the very thought process that was behind that. When you were, and I mean, at 5 years old, like that's probably one of the youngest ages that I've heard of somebody kind of recalling that, they're having a weight issue and being told a certain thing and such. I guess during your journey and kind of going into university and that sort of thing, and even kind of in your professional career, did you feel like you kind of mentioned that you need to try harder and do harder and that sort of thing, but did you ever feel like you met an expectation or made your grandma proud or anything like that at all?
Well, not so much in my professional career, because it pretty much, and my grandma passed away when I was about 30. And at that point, I was a stay-at-home mom with 5 kids and a dairy farm and a hairdressing business in the kitchen. So I hadn't really she was very proud of the fact that I had all these children.
Right.
Like, she thought that was wonderful. Nice little family, in her words, because, the old days, that was a little family, 5 kids.
Yeah.
And that I was the 5 kids were all healthy and doing well. But yeah, she would have said, oh, if you could just be thinner, if you could just, even my doctor, after I had my first baby and I went in and I was on top of the world. I loved being a mother. The baby was 6 weeks old, or 8 weeks old, something like that. Cause I was wearing a sundress and I had just gotten it and I felt good in it. And I went in and he told me, he said, you need to lose some weight. You'd be so pretty if you lost some weight. Yeah. I didn't need that. I didn't need to hear that from my doctor, but I've heard many similar things from doctors since then, and they're tough. It's tough to hear. They have no empathy. And the ones I've run into, the guy that did the surgery on my ankle 6 years ago, he did it. It didn't do anything. A year later, I had to go in and he said it didn't work. And he said, well, you just need to lose weight. And that might be true. I said to him, it's not as easy as just saying that. Yeah, he said, I wouldn't know about that because, and he's really a little doctor, little Irish doctor, by the way. Must be an Irish thing. Little doctor, very slim and trim. And he had absolutely no understanding. That if I go in with a sore throat, it's not about my weight. If I go in with an earache, it's not about my weight. I have a great GP now that does not automatically associate everything with weight. And he shares the same, he's continually battling with his weight as well. So he has a little more empathy than the doctors up until now. So,
and it's amazing how society has developed those ideas, and they still very much persist. And the obesity epidemic is getting worse. And if it was just a matter of just eating less, moving more, again, we wouldn't have this weight issue, this problem that so many people are struggling with. And I think
it is a matter of eating less.
Yes.
But how do you eat less unless you have the GLP-1 drug on board that tells you, or you have a Roux-en-Y and it tells you, or apparently the big European thing now is the balloon inserted into your stomach and inflated.
Right.
There's a total disconnect between saying eat less and doing it. It's not that simple. When your body drives you to eat, when your body craves all these things, it's way more than willpower. I'm sorry. I think I have good willpower, but I for years was led to believe I didn't have any at all.
Wow, exactly it. You don't have enough of it, yet you are faithfully going to the gym every day. You're running 2.5 miles. Those aren't easy feats to be able to do that. And the whole starving yourself thing, that internal drive to have your stomach literally feel like it's eating itself, and doing it for this, that takes a mountain of willpower to be able to do that, right?
And it does, and it wears you out. And that's why it's not sustainable.
Totally.
Because it absolutely wears you out. And then I would always say, as long as I was losing, I could put up with it. But you're going to plateau at some point. No matter what you do, you're going to stay the same. And then it's like, I'm doing this, I'm hurting, and this is not working. Yeah,
absolutely. You get exhausted. Yeah, you get tired, and that internalized weight bias is telling you that number is your metric, and that's what we need to see going down. And if you're getting positive feedback of the number going down, that's okay. You can keep it up and stuff to a certain degree, but as soon as you plateau and that number stops going down, well, suddenly that positive reward mechanism that kept you going is no longer there.
The motivation is gone.
Totally.
It's like I can't do this if I'm not getting results. I can't do this.
Yeah, because you're miserable. You actually hate what you're doing, and that is the piece that I think is we don't talk about enough and kind of tease out, because people don't realize that is eventually what's going to happen. That is eventually going to be the thing that's going to come out, and you're going to be, this is actually quite horrible. And what's that plan when you do see that number stop moving?
Well, and I tried the whole self-acceptance thing. Fat's okay. Fat's not a bad word. This is me. This is what I look like. This is, my body works. That's what's important. I could never buy into it. Yeah. And I suppose partly that's the internalized weight bias, because I could not say that I'm okay with the way I look. I never could. I can now. Well, it's slipping away now with those damn anxiety drugs doing their thing. But I could say I'm not thin. I'm not anybody's idea of a model of any kind, but I feel normal. And that's the thing. I was really tired of scanning every room I went into to see if I was the fattest one there. I was really tired of always having to be super careful that I did my hair perfectly. I did my makeup perfectly. I picked my clothes out to be the most flattering, to an nth degree, because I knew I was going to be judged, because you're judged when you're fat. Now I don't care. I mean, yes, I did my hair this morning, whoop, whoop, but there's a lot of days I don't do my hair. There's a lot of days that I just throw on a t-shirt and shorts and go work in the yard. I no longer feel bound to be super, super careful, like super rigorous in how I look. I can relax. First time in a long time.
Well, and that's often what I hear from people when they take these medications. It's a freedom. It's a freedom from having to read every single label, count every single gram of food, to fight back the hunger, to fight back the
Yes.
food noise, and
Uh-huh.
then allowing you to, I mean, quote unquote normal, what is normal, but allow you to just be and focus on all of the other important things, like
Mhm.
spending time with your grandkids and being
Yes.
present for that,
Yes.
helping out your
Yes.
daughter. It's
Yep.
like these drugs, and that's one of the biggest things with people saying that these drugs are cheating. It's like, no, these drugs are helping you to engage and do the things that are actually important to you in life. It's taking this
Yeah.
problem of your weight that isn't your fault. It is your responsibility as how you're managing it. And you're taking responsibility by using a medication to help you to do it. And if
Right.
that is cheating to allow you to have a more purposeful and fulfilling life and not constantly worrying about your weight, well then fuck, I'll cheat all day long. Like that is the stupidest argument that people have when
And
it
I,
comes
I
to it.
don't, uh, I don't abide by it. If someone says something, I tell them, because I'm 100% for anything that helps in this obesity disease, because it is a disease. It's not a choice. It's
Mhm.
not a bad habit. It's a disease. It's a chronic multifactorial disease. And if I can get a Roux-en-Y and it helps, I didn't care who knew that I had a Roux-en-Y. Am I cheating? I don't think so. Would you like to have a surgery to get something corrected? Like it's not yeah. And taking the drugs, no, people are like people just they have no experience with obesity, and so then they're going to say, "Oh well, I heard it does this, and I heard you're going to go blind, and I
Mhm.
heard this is going to happen." And I'm like, "Well, bring it on." So far, the research doesn't say any of those things, even to the point where they're trying to tell you, "Oh, you shouldn't even be drinking that Diet Coke. Oh, that sweetener's terrible. You should just have sugar." Like, go away. Sugar is
Yeah,
way harder on me than Splenda's ever going to be. Sugar's not good for me at all. I consider sugar almost poison for me. But yeah, I
totally.
don't really care anymore what people say. If they say, "Oh, did you go on that Ozempic?" I say, "Yeah, I did. It was great. I like
Yeah,
it." Yeah.
totally.
One of my grandsons just asked me because I just recently refilled my prescription.
Mhm.
And so they're in the fridge, and I have two fridges. One we use mostly for drinks, especially because, hot summer and all. And I use it for the extra baking I do or whatever, but I also keep my Ozempic in it. And he
Mhm.
comes out and he's 14, almost 14. And he's really smart kind of kid. And he comes out and he said, "So grandma," he said, "are you now like the official spokesperson for Ozempic?" And I said, "No, I'm not, but I really like it, Dean. You know that I like it." Because he's heard me talk about it enough times. So, yeah,
Totally.
and I don't think that that's bad at all. I mean, he doesn't have a weight problem. He's probably never going to have one. Just looking at his genetics and his build, his younger brother will.
Mhm. Totally.
His younger brother is much heavier than I was at the same age, but the
Mhm.
same kind of kid, short, stocky, strong. I wouldn't run into him with anything less than a semi, I don't think. Just that kind, there's a difference, right? So I
Absolutely.
don't know, but I'm not ashamed of taking Ozempic. I'm not ashamed of having a Roux-en-Y. In fact, I kind of internally, I don't think I've ever said this out loud before, but I kind of internally give myself a little pat on the back for being so proactive. Like, yeah, good for you. It was new and it was scary. I mean, I did the Roux-en-Y 16 years ago,
Okay.
something like that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't real popular then. I didn't know anybody in Canada that had ever had one.
Yeah.
Anyway, I did it. And then I went on the Ozempic long before most of the people I knew about it or were on it. I didn't know anybody else that was on it when I started it, but I kind of go, "Yeah, I'm brave. I'm brave. I'll try these things." And it's just a marker that I never gave up.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a battle and I won't give up.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think thinking of the gain that you're seeing, like, yes, there is the weight gain, but I would say it's the bigger picture of the freedom that you feel like you're losing, and that,
Mhm.
yeah, there's going to be a lot of stress and fear that comes from that. And certainly changes need to be made so that you don't lose that freedom, because
Yeah, I do need to work on the medications I've been prescribed. I do, and I guess I'm going to have to advocate for myself. I'm going to have to take the bull by the horns and just say, listen, I can't live like this. I know my mental health is important, but do you not realize that my mental health and my weight are this close? Like,
absolutely.
it's huge, and it's been that way all my life. So I need to get some relief now, because I'm now on a dosage of 2 per week,
Hmm.
and I'm maintaining, I'm not losing. And I'm
Right.
trying. I went back to the gym. I broke my wrist playing pickleball this winter.
All the sports. Like,
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it. What great cardio. And it's so much fun. Um, and I exercise 3 times a week, and I was playing pickleball at least twice a week. And the
nice.
weight was not even a part of my daily worries. I got weighed every single morning just to keep track, but
Mhm.
it was not, it had nothing to do, I wasn't worried about it in the least. But then I broke my wrist. And then in the fall that I broke my wrist, I also really hurt my back. And so I
Yeah.
couldn't go back to the gym. All I could do is walk. So I was walking a lot, but I went back to the gym last week, and of course I re-injured the back. So, oh well, we learn, don't we? Sometimes it takes us longer.
Yeah, it does. It definitely, it's that trial and error, right? And
Yeah,
that's okay. We got to ease back into it
I
and,
know.
make the
I don't
changes,
have the
right?
patience to ease into anything.
Nah, you and me both on all the fronts there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I'm very curious. So, looking back on your family history and such, was there mom, dad, anybody in your family? Did they struggle with their weights?
My grandma, my maternal grandmother,
Okay, so
was
your
always
mom's
very heavy, very heavy. She was 5'3", 5'2", 5'3". She weighed at least 230, 240. Like, she just was round like a barrel.
mhm,
Um, and she took a lot of guff for it. And she put herself down for it all the time too. But she was my biggest ally in that she never told me what to eat. She thought I looked lovely in whatever I wore. And she was just staying with her. They lived about 15 miles away. I would stay with her in the summer, and it was just so nice to stay with grandma, because whatever, she would take me clothes shopping, and we would shop until we found something that I liked and it fit. And
mhm.
she always said it looked good. And she never ever chided me. My other grandma would, I got home, she lived 100 yards away, get off the bus, and the other kids would be making sandwiches, because I was the oldest of 4, and she would tell me to have lettuce. That would be a good sandwich for me. Do you know how that feels when you're 12 and you think you're starving? You get off the bus after a long day, and your grandma tells you should have a lettuce sandwich, no bread, just lettuce. So yeah, that was just the way it was. I
Yeah.
learned that real early, and she always talked about how um, my sister wore such cute little dresses. I never heard that. I'm sure I had cute little dresses too, but I never heard that from her. She would always say, "Oh, look at that cute little dress. That would just look perfect on Kathy." Yeah, it would, Grandma. Yeah, I agree. Yep.
Jeez. It's such
Yeah.
a dichotomy between the two. And yeah, it would definitely be, I mean, some respite when you got to
Yeah.
actually go with the other grandma and, have that acceptance of, nope, just as you are is
Yes.
good enough, right?
Yeah, and she I mean, she wasn't a good role model in terms of, she was always dieting too. She'd eat
Oh,
a boiled egg and a cup of buttermilk for breakfast, and then she'd have tomato juice and buttermilk for lunch. Like, terrible role model in terms of food.
yeah.
But she was she made me comfortable in my own skin,
Hmm.
and I could relax. And because I wasn't obese, like, my grandma was really obese. But because I wasn't obese, I was more just a healthy, solid chunk of a kid. She never put me down or said it's like she didn't see a difference between myself and my sister.
Right.
She saw us both as equal. It wasn't about the appearance thing. So yeah, they were like night and day, the two grandmas. So yeah, I'm glad I had the two of them, a bit of balance in my life. So yeah.
Yeah. And I mean,
But that's the only person in our family that fought her weight. And out of the next generation, I have a cousin who's pretty much in the same boat as I am. I don't know that she's ever gotten as heavy as me, but she's a first cousin, and she's same age as my kids because just the way the family's lined up. But she fights with her weight continually. She's just like my grandma.
right,
But
right.
it didn't go everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like every grandchild inherited my grandma's. And her own children would get up a few pounds or go down or whatever. They never fought a big fight against obesity.
Right.
But I know, and I'm like her in nature as well. Like I'm like her in temperament. So, yeah.
Interesting.
It
You know,
just
and
comes with
comes with the territory and that piece of it. And I guess how did things translate for you when you had your own kids, and obviously you were aware of some of the things but still didn't have the internalized weight bias and that aspect of things? How did things translate there, and then even now with the grandkids and seeing them grow up and such?
Well, I found that with my own children, they were very accepting, but they knew I was fat.
Mm-hmm.
And they got teased at school. Especially my youngest son got teased by one of his best friends about how fat his mother was. And I didn't know that, when it originally started. And I felt so terrible for him. And I felt bad for the kids if I went somewhere and I was always the fattest person. Like I didn't like that. I stayed in the background a lot when my kids were, especially when they were teenagers, because I didn't want them to be ashamed of me. And so I did everything I could to achieve things. I became the president of this association and the president of that association. And I did all these things to show them that I was quite capable. It didn't help that their father made fun of my weight too. He wasn't very accepting. I think he probably was more accepting than he let on, but I think he knew it was a real weak point with me, a real sore point. So that's what he would strike out at. Like, why is your belly so big? Don't know, just is. You know what I mean? Like little comments like that, or, you got the kids all looking so good to go to church. Well, why didn't you do something with yourself? Yeah. Like those kind of things get to you too. Hey, I mean, that's some of the reasons we're not married anymore. Yeah. So it's just, you just try to find the easiest way to fit in without sticking out too much. I'm really proud of my children raising their children. The word fat is pretty much forbidden in every house because of the derogatory connotations that come with it. They don't own the word fat, but they're not going to let their kids say that about anybody or about themselves. Mm-hmm. Huge emphasis on not pointing out a kid's weight or shape. And I love that, especially my daughter, who has one really thin and tall son and one really short and stocky son. She has to work really hard at it because she would like to continually point the short and stocky son towards the lettuce, like my grandma did. Totally. But she bites her tongue and she doesn't. And I really admire her for that, because even I want to say something sometimes like, you don't need 4 pieces of cake, kid, but I don't. I mean, I know better than that. But she's been trying to make sure there's more healthy snacks in the house. Yeah. But that kid, he's just like me. And he's like, well, there's nothing good here. He wants cookies or chips, he knows what he wants. But anyway, she's doing a really good job. The son that's raising 3 daughters. He and his wife are doing an excellent job. His wife is she's not fat, but she has put on little weight since, she was 20, and she exercises, she goes to the gym, and it's just a wonderful role model, and they eat wonderfully. My son does probably 90% of the cooking, and he is really careful with making sure they're eating high protein, complex carbs and this kind of thing. He's like really, really on the bit there. And the other, the youngest daughter is a nurse, and she's got 2 little girls. She's got one just like me, solid as a rock and strong and precocious. And she's trying really hard to make sure that nobody ever tells her that she's fat. She's not. She's a chunk, but she's not. There can be chunks, and then there can be fat, and there's a difference. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so she's going to work really hard there too. I know. I can tell already that they're setting the stage. And then her second daughter is so petite that, the contrast. Yeah. But they're all doing a really good job of that. And it's funny because they don't seem to have inherited the weight bias from me. I tried hard not to ever coach them on what they ate as kids.
Yeah.
I tried hard not to. If they said, like my oldest daughter, I remember her saying she wanted to lose some weight for some particular dress or something for graduation. And yeah, she came to a few talks, meetings with me. And she also would follow my eating plan on Weight Watchers, but it was something she wanted, not something I said, you have to do this. So yeah, I think that my kids all have to work now to maintain a healthy body, mm-hmm. because they all could put weight on, but they're all doing fine. My oldest has the hardest time, and my youngest son, those 2 out of the 5, may have a little more of my genetics than they should have, but they have to work really hard at it. But they're healthy, and they have a much better sense of themselves than I did. Like they like themselves better than I did. So, yeah. So I guess maybe the generational thing is going to work in their favor.
And kind of, breaking that chain, if you will, of that previous environment that you grew up in, and starting that direction of things, and then, passing it on to their kids. And, it's one thing to want to lose weight for improving your health or what mm-hmm. have you. But if you're doing it from a place of shame, blame, and or for society or for other people, it's never going to work out. It has to be from a place of, I'm losing weight for whatever reason I want to lose weight, but I'm not a bad person because I have a weight issue. There's nothing inherently wrong with me. I'm just struggling with my weight. And most people, when I take them through, like, we can identify, oh yeah, I grew up in this environment where I would sneak food and et cetera, et cetera. And oh yeah, I had this tragic thing happen in the family, and I wasn't mm-hmm. as focused on what I was eating, and I wasn't sleeping well, and so on and so forth. And it's these things that lead to and cause that weight to come on. And again, that genetic piece comes in, where some people get in that environment, they don't gain any weight whatsoever. Other people, they pack it on overnight, kind of thing.
Well, it's like my family. I mean, 4 siblings, parents. I'm the only one that had a weight issue.
Totally.
Like I can't say that now because, menopause hit my sister, and being older hit my parents, and they put on a few pounds here and there, but it's not, most of their lives, they just stayed slim, they were naturally slim. And that's, you have to get past the sense of unfairness, because it does seem really unfair, and you just have to move on and work on it. And I feel like I have wasted way too much of my life's energy battling something that I really, really didn't have much control over. The first time I really felt shame in my life was when I was 5, and I had to go to the doctor to get put on a diet. That was shame. That was horrible shame. And then in the intervening years, I would feel shame often because I thought it was my fault. I thought there was something, like you said, inherently wrong with me, something innately wrong with me, something I should be able to control, but I wasn't. And I was broken. I was broken and I couldn't seem to fix myself. I didn't have enough willpower. I didn't have enough stamina. And then when I think of the things that I've done in my life, my God, I had stamina, I had willpower, I had everything. But my weight was always the thing that I couldn't get a handle on.
Yeah. And that is so provocative. And I even find it interesting when you had mentioned about the bariatric clinic and wanting to be included with the Roux-en-Y people. That was even like another mark in saying, you're not good enough. You're not even good enough to come and join the other fat people in this group here. Like, sorry, you're denied.
I desperately wanted the support.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have it anymore. When I lived in California, I had a once a month support group at the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot from it. And they would supply recipes and people would talk about challenges. And you'd see other people's progress. And it was wonderful. It was good. I felt so good after I'd have one of those. And then I came to Canada and I couldn't even buy my way into one. And I didn't qualify because I didn't have my surgery here. So, yeah. And to finally talk to you and learn about internalized weight bias, it really was the word I can use as liberating. It's like, oh my God, somebody just opened the door and let me out of this cage I've been in. This is not me. I'm not broken. There's something in me that doesn't work perfectly well, but there's a drug that fixes it. There's a prescription. Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Cindy, thank you very much for sharing your story. Is there anything else that you wanna add on here for the viewers?
I just want to say not to give up, that if you keep going, there will be success. It might be slow and there might be setbacks, but we have to, as people that belong to this wonderful club of obese people, we have to stick together and keep pushing our way through because nobody listens to us. I mean, they're just starting to. You're listening to us. Now, all of a sudden, the insurance companies are listening a little bit. The drug companies are listening. And I hope to God that they're actually educating the doctors in their education now to accept obesity people for what they are and not blame that sore throat and that earache on being fat. Oh, I think you might have a bit of an ear infection. We should probably get you a diet plan. Yeah, piss off.
That'll be the cure right there. Like, yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Couldn't be anything else.
No,
awesome.
It's 100% your fault. And that makes it easy for the doctors too, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. It's just a blanket.
They don't have to deal with it because it's 100% your fault. I told you to follow a diet. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, you didn't. Well, then it's on you.
Yeah.
Not me. Yeah. Medicine has failed people with obesity forever. So it's time medicine picked up. If I was fighting with diabetes, they'd be all over me with solutions and options. If I was fighting cancer, it would be the same thing. Well, I'm here to say that I 100% believe that obesity is a chronic, multifactorial disease, and we got to fight it.
Amazing. Awesome, Cindy. Thank you very much for sharing your story again. For anybody else that may want to share their story, check out the links down below and you can fill out our form and our team will reach out to you. But again, Cindy, it has been a pleasure to chat with you today. Thank you again for coming on.
All right. Thank you very much.